Last week we looked into Vasistha's imagery of the whole of freedom, the whole of liberation, the whole of knowledge, wisdom. And the four gatekeepers with whose help alone we will be able to enter this hall of wisdom. Self-control, self-inquiry, contentment, and satsanga, or good company. Put it in a very simple way, good company. I suppose you realize it means nothing, huh? You have to define what good means, what company means, and all that. Supposing with the help of all the four, 3, 2, or by intensely cultivating the friendship of one of these, you are able to get to the door and you begin to knock. Knock and it shall open. The first and most important factor here is to knock. It shall open, or it shall be opened. Your knocking does not open the door. If you knock hard and long enough, maybe the skin comes off your knuckles, but it doesn't open the door. Why? Because the key is with someone else. The door has to be opened, not by you. What happens if we are kept waiting for long? We were reminded of the story of Shuka, who didn't mind waiting. When does a person get impatient? When he is an imp. That's when you get impatient. The very fact that you are impatient shows that you are not knocking. Ramana Maharshi, for one, responds in a unique manner to a question that I am sure all of us have asked others or ourselves. I am sitting for meditation, repeating my mantra, but so many thoughts come and they distract my attention. Who asked you to pay attention to those distractions? You are supposed to be sitting there and doing japa, repeating your mantra. If you can go on repeating your mantra, what can distractions do? So if you go on knocking, how can you become impatient? And if you become impatient, you have forgotten to knock. That's obvious, isn't it? Quite simple. So in this thing there is no impatience at all. You knock, you knock. What happens then is illustrated graphically in a temple in South India. The temple is dedicated to Lord Shiva, and you have your own extraordinary images of Lord Shiva. Whether it is anthropomorphic or just a symbolic thing, you have your own images of Lord Shiva. But here, the place is called Chidambaram. Watch very carefully. Listen very carefully. The place is called Chidambaram. It's a railway station. You see a signboard there, and the whole town, whole city is called Chidambaram. And there is a temple there. And it is in that temple that Lord Shiva is worshipped as Nataraja. You have seen the dancing Shiva, beautiful image that is found everywhere, dancing Shiva. The image of Nataraja is found there. But in another part of the temple, you are introduced to the Chidambara Rahasyam. Rahasyam means great secret. What is the secret of this Chidambaram? We will still consider it a place, the name of a place, and the name of the temple. Right? We will come back to the name a little later. And now, this temple dedicated to Lord Shiva has one little corner where the secret of Chidambaram is waiting to be unveiled. And if you happen to make friendship with one of the priests of the temple, he might take you there ceremonially for a fee, perhaps. I don't know. We went with Swami Shivananda, so I don't know anything about it. And then you stand there, you see beautiful tapestry hanging, beautiful, gorgeous, exciting. And he says, "Look!" And you keep looking there, the priest and it is possible for you to come away with an exalted experience or absolute disappointment, total disappointment. There is nothing. Is one view, is that it? Is another. What is the meaning of the word Chidambaram? Chit means consciousness, Ambaram space. It's a dimension of pure consciousness. In pure consciousness there is no need for a form, but in it all forms arise. So perhaps when you knock, and eventually when the door is opened, you see, what do you see? You suddenly realize that all that is seen is a projection of the seer. You may say or think it is an illusion, but the seer of the illusion exists. You may think you see nothing. The seer of nothingness exists. Or you may come back to that, the source of all wisdom. The seeker was already the sought. There is no distinction. The seeker was merely a word. Moksha, liberation, is another word. Bondage is one word, emancipation is another word. Illusion is one word, enlightenment is another word. We are living in a world of words. Suddenly the distinction between the seeker and the goal disappears. Suddenly the distinction between bondage and liberation disappears. Suddenly the distinction between you and I disappears. Suddenly the distinction between pain and pleasure disappears. Happiness and unhappiness disappears. These are all words. Is there any reality to this? We are fond of words. We use words all the time. And having coined the words, we attribute a certain meaning to it. And using the words, we hope we are conveying the meaning to the other person. The words may have no meaning at all. We use even words which have no meaning and imagine that somehow meaning has been given to those words. As for instance, in mathematics, you have got minus quantities. Can you ever conceive of a thing called minus 16? What is minus 16? Can you figure out the answer to this question? I owe you minus $16. No, sorry. When I say I owe you minus $16, it really means you owe me $16. Then if you give me $18, now I will owe you $2. What is meant by... So, in this expression of some sort of negative formulation, we are missing out something and we are seeing something else. You are seeing me sitting here, and if I suddenly get up and walk away, you say the Swami is not on the chair. But so is the dog not on the chair, a donkey not on the chair, a million things not on the chair. But what you are missing out is that there is a lamb's skin on the chair. That is what you are supposed to see. That is the reality. Instead of seeing what is, you imagine what should be there and get into some kind of a difficulty over whether it is there or it is not there. Instead, see what is there. It's an extremely simple proposition. Then inquire into the existence or the reality or the truth concerning what is, and then you will acquire the ability to perceive what is as distinct from what appears to be. A verse which occurs again and again in two or three different contexts in the Yoga-Vasistha contains the very essence of its message. Brahmasya jagatasya jatasya akasha varnavat. The world that you perceive is a confusion. The word Brahma is also translated into illusion. It's really a confusion. A confusion which can be likened to the vision of the sky as blue. The sky is blue, isn't it? But what is blue in it? I see a blueness, which is of course true. But to say the sky is blue is to assume that there is a thing called sky, and that sky is painted blue. Then you struggle to discover that there is nothing blue in the sky. And then there is no sky. What am I seeing? I am seeing blueness. I am seeing blueness. So, the vision that is projected outside, the conviction that arises in the mind that there is something blue there is questioned. It is a confusion. Like minus 16. Minus 16 meant something else. It is an expression that masks the truth and appears something else and makes it appear that it is something else, that I owe her. I don't owe her anything. But I hate to say that she owes me. I'm scared. So, in order to mask this, I introduce a sophisticated expression, polite expression, clever expression, cunning expression. In these words, the truth is confounded, and therefore we never reach reality. We cling so fast to words, all the time words. And these words create images in the mind, or the images create the word. They arise simultaneously. And we are trapped in these images, words complex. Being trapped in them, in these words and images, we consider them to be real, very real. These words and these images become so important to us that they rule our lives and rule out peace of mind, happiness, and enlightenment. I'll give you one maybe rude but homely example. I know a very young couple somewhere in North America, very happily married. They have a couple of children, lovely children. And now the father and the mother are both extremely fond of these two children. Now the mother writes to me a very astonishing letter. She says, now we are very happy together, this little family. And I get on very well with my husband. There is a little problem, and that is that the first child was born soon after we got married, though we knew each other for some time before that. I have a feeling that it is not my husband's child. Must I tell him so? That it may not be yours. She is not certain that it is not either. Must I tell him so? Now, can you imagine the shock that the husband would experience if he suddenly told my friend, this is not your baby? Why? Why do we get shocked? What has changed? Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. These 4 people have been living there as one unit. And the father, this young man, dotes on that child, the first child, brilliant child. Now suddenly supposing he was told that maybe this was not your child. What has changed? Your word has changed. Huh? Just the word has changed. One tiny word of 3 letters has been introduced into one sentence. So far he has heard, this is your child, and now a little word, not, has been introduced into it. This is not your child. And suddenly the whole world cracks and everything, the heavens fall and hell opens. That is the state of our lives here. Words and images. And these things rule our lives. We never bother to inquire into the nature of these words, nature of these images, who builds them, not why, who builds them, what for, what is this? What is this game? To realize that this is merely a game is itself freedom from bondage to those images. That's all we want. Several centuries ago, people looked at the sky and really thought that God had made a nice, beautiful blue cover for our earth to protect us from the devils outside. Now, man has gone to the moon and he has found that there is nothing, no blue dome, nothing there. No blue dome. Nothing blue there. It's all empty space. Huh? Can you go out and look at the sky? Do you see it is blue or not? Yes? Sure. What is the difference? Whereas someone a few thousand years ago thought that there was really something there which was blue and felt happy about it or unhappy about it, you who still see it as blue are not bluffed, are not deceived by it. What has happened? Nothing has happened. What was there is there even now. You did not see it as for what it is, and now you see it for what it is. And you suddenly realize that blueness is merely a word. There is nothing blue there, but the word is there. The image is there. You have understood the meaning of the word, the meaning of the image, and you are no longer trapped, deceived by the word and the image, because you do not treat the word and the image as if they were realities. We are not going to divorce each other, we are not going to run away from each other, all this is nonsense. Is it possible for us in our daily relationship, in our daily lives, to remain alert and not confuse the word for the thing indicated, nor the image for the reality. Are we using these words, happiness, unhappiness, pleasure, pain, bondage, liberation, as if they are solid realities? We are using these things as if they were very real. To illustrate this, Vasistha gives us a lovely little story. I would like to read it because it's packed so intensely that I don't think I can memorize it and repeat it to you. And what is interesting here is you must listen to it as the child listens to it. To illustrate this, there is an interesting legend. Kindly listen to it. A young boy asked his nanny to tell him a story. And the nanny told him the following story, to which the boy listened with great attention. We have all been like that, huh? When we were small, somebody used to tell us stories to put us to sleep. Once upon a time, in a city which did not exist, there were 3 princes who were brave and happy. Oh, visualize 3 charming princes, brave and happy. Of them, 2 were unborn, and the 3rd had not been conceived at all. But that is, these inconvenient truths are usually brushed under the carpet, so far as we are concerned. Unfortunately, all their relatives died. 2 were unborn, 1 was not conceived. Unfortunately, all their relatives died. The princes left their native city to go elsewhere. Very soon, unable to bear the heat of the sun, they fell into a swoon. Their feet were burnt by hot sand. The tips of grass pierced them. They reached the shade of 3 trees, of which 2 did not exist, and the 3rd had not even been planted. After resting there for some time and eating the fruits of those trees, they proceeded further. They reached the banks of 3 rivers. Of them 2 were dry, and in the 3rd there was no water. The princes had a refreshing bath and quenched their thirst in them. They then reached a huge city which was about to be built. Entering it, they found 3 palaces of exceeding beauty. Of them 2 had not been built at all, and the 3rd had no walls. They entered the palaces and found 3 golden plates. 2 of them had been broken in 2, and the 3rd had been pulverized. They took hold of one of them. They took hold of the one which had been pulverized. They took 99 minus 100 grams of rice and cooked it. They then invited 3 holy men to be their guests. Of them 2 had no body, and the 3rd had no mouth. After these holy men had eaten the food, the 3 princes partook of the rest of the food cooked. They were greatly pleased. Thus they lived in that city for a long, long time in peace and joy. Words. Wasn't that story beautiful? We all enjoyed such stories. We all enjoy that stories. We go to the movies. Is there, especially if there is a very moving, not only moving in the sense of movie stories, But really moving, heartwarming, heart-moving story. I've seen people getting emotional about it, don't you? Just by looking at that shadow on the screen. There is not even a real person there. At least in a theatre where there is a live play going on, you have some excuse for getting emotional. Here it's merely